phrase we've used a few times tonight, and that's open banking. And we're sort of mixing it up on a number of different areas. I was fortunate enough to be at the Nesta launch of the consumer side of what was called open banking. We all sat in a room with the great Dave Birch, who was wearing his shorts because it was a very hot day, talking about what consumers really thought about open banking. And we all fixated by this word open banking, which we as a panel have used a lot tonight. And we worked out that if we actually hadn't had that meeting, hadn't done that, we'd actually gone to the pub across the road and asked the people in the pub what they thought open banking was, the majority of them would have replied, does that mean banks are going to be open on a Saturday morning? Which is actually what they wanted. And I think as an industry, we've ended up with a noose around our head with something that doesn't really describe correctly what we're really trying to do. And I think that one needs to be sorted out, not by me, but all by clever people who know what they're doing. If you look at what's going on, the migration from salaries being paid into the CMA 9 down to salaries being paid into the digital challenger banks, that hasn't moved. Hasn't moved in any great numbers yet. And there could be one or two reasons for that. Is it trust? Well, you know, there might be a bit of that, but I don't necessarily think that's probably true. Is it differential service? It could well be that, because there aren't clear differentials in service between the digital challenger banks and the CMA 9. But more importantly, it's how do we differentiate and actually give customers something that will change the way that they work and the way that they interact with money, which they need every minute of every day. And I think that looking at what we call this stuff is an interesting place to start with, because if you called it something different, then the marketplaces that we all agree, I think, it needs to exist and will exist, then might have a chance to actually get both business and consumer uptake in a way that's different to what we've seen thus far. So, you're the open banking guy.
I couldn't agree with you more, but there is a title on banking as a service and open banking, so we have to talk about that. And I think that is actually one of the biggest impediments to people using it, partly because their banks don't really tell them about it, because they're actually naively thinking it's a threat rather than a massive opportunity. So I think open banking is a great example of the law of unintended consequences. I actually think the incumbent banks will actually be the biggest winners out of it. So why they're not telling their customers about it and actually jumping from the rooftops, I really don't know, in language that talks about value to them. So we in the industry, we absolutely get caught up on talking about open banking, about banking as a platform, about technology. We don't talk about it in consumer language that is beneficial to them. And until we do that, then it won't be the big opportunity that I really believe it is.
But just putting it in the hands of the consumer without a further explanation beside this is the product you are getting, this is the value you are getting, who cares is PSD to open banking, etc., is actually kind of the way to go.